Welcome to the metal casting and welding. And in this subject code is 18ME45B for third semester B mechanical engineering students. In that module number 3 that related to solidification and non-ferrous foundry practice and then presented by Dr. Manirajam, faculty member, Government Engineering College, Chamarajanagar. In this, these are the main outlines of this module number 3 in solidification and non-ferrous foundry practice. In this, what do you mean by solidification, definition, and then nucleation, and then what are the solidification variables, and then directional solidification needs and methods, and then degasification in liquid metal, and then different degasification methods also we'll discuss in detail, and then fettling and cleaning of castings we'll discuss in detail, and then what are the casting defects, causes and remedies also we'll discuss in detail. Again, advantage and limitations of casting process. Apart from that, I can also discuss non-ferrous foundry practice in this aluminum castings, and what are the advantages and limitations, and then melting of aluminum using lift out type crucible furnace we'll discuss in detail, and then what are the hardness used, drawing, and then gas absorption, and then fluxing and flushing, gain refinement, and then pouring temperature. Finally, stir casting setup procedure, uses, and then advantages and limitations we'll discuss in detail. Next, we'll starts with these are the after this is the model number 3, solidification and non-ferrous foundry practice. These are the main course learning objectives. Here to provide adequate knowledge of solidification, fettling, and cleaning of cast components, to provide in-depth knowledge on metallurgical aspects during solidification of metals and alloys, to impart knowledge of various degasification methods used in casting process, to provide detailed information about the casting defects and remedial measures to eliminate defects attributed in the casting processes, to impart knowledge about melting practice of aluminum alloy and effect of process parameters. Finally, the gain enriched knowledge about gain refinement, drawing, gas absorption, fluxing, and flushing of non-foundry practices. These are the main objectives of this chapter, and then after studying the entire chapter, these are the main outcomes. Finally, students will understand the solidification process and casting of non-ferrous metals. Next, we'll start with solidification. Here, solidification is the process by which substance undergoes phase transformation from liquid state to a solid state. Here, water converting to ice is a simple example of solidification process. In a casting process, as the molten metal in liquid form is poured into the mold cavity, it begins to cool. That is also when solidification takes place, and then when the temperature drops below the freezing point, it is the melting point of material. This nothing but the solidification starts. And then solidification controls the microstructure of the component or material formed during casting. This microstructure is called solidified microstructure. And then, as known, all metals shrinks during change of phase from liquid to solid state. However, different metals at different rates, and as much proper understanding of these solidification mechanism are essential uh, to prevent defects due to shrinkage of metal. Further, during solidification, the atoms in the material are rearranged, leading to change in the microstructure of the material. The change in the microstructure results in changes in the properties of the material like strength, toughness, ductility, etc. By controlling the solidification process suitably, the microstructure and hence the properties of the material can be altered as desired. Solidification controls the microstructure of the component or material formed during casting. This microstructure is called as solidified microstructure. And then here the solidification curve. Here solidification process differs depending on the whether the metal is a pure element or an alloy. A pure metal solidifies at a constant temperature equal to its freezing point, which is the same as its melting point. The process occurs over and over time as shown in two plot of figure, and then this is nothing but a cooling curve. Here it shows the temperature versus time, and then this is the pouring temperature, and then this is the cooling rate, and then this is a thermal rest, and then this is nothing but equilibrium freezing temperature, and then total time. This is the whole total solidification time from here pouring temperature to this equilibrium. Okay, this is the total solidification time, and then from year to year is nothing but a local solidification time. The simple curve shows the solidification of curve for metals. Next we'll go for nucleation. Here nucleation can be defined as the formation of a new phase in a distinct region separated from the surroundings by a definite boundary. During solidification, the atomic arrangement changes from a random or short range order to a long range order, or it may be a crystal structure. Nucleation occurs when a small nucleus begins to form in the liquid. The nuclei then grows as atoms from the liquid are attached to it. Here, when the liquid cools below its freezing point, it is the melting point, it starts to solidify. The atoms of the liquid metal begins to bond together, forming a very small sized crystal called nuclei, and then is shown in the figure A. This process takes place at several locations, that is as shown in figure A. These are small nuclei, and then the formation of new crystal is known as nucleation, and then and the point where it occurs is nucleation point. As the solidification progresses, the crystal increases in size by the progressive addition of atoms and grow until they impinge upon adjacent growing crystal. Crystal growth continues in three dimensions, forming a tree-like appearance known as dendrites. And then this is shown in figure B. And then these are the formations of crystal growth. And then this is forms like a tree. And then the dendrites grow in different directions in each crystal. And finally, when dendrites impinges upon the adjacent growing dendrite, the grain boundary is formed as shown in this figure C. The crystal growth ceases when all the available liquid metal is solidified. This is a simple sketch showing this nucleation process, and then next we'll go for types of nucleation. Here it is observed that nucleation is helped by the presence of foreign elements or impurities present in the molten metal. Depending on the role of these foreign elements, nucleation is classified into two types: homogeneous nucleation and then heterogeneous nucleation. In homogeneous nucleation is the thing, but when nucleation takes place in the liquid metal without the help of any impurities, then it is known as homogeneous nucleation. It is nucleation based on this mechanism takes place in pure liquid metals only. Whereas in heterogeneous nucleation, when nucleation takes place with the help of impurities, it is known as heterogeneous nucleation. Impurities can be in the form of sand particles, alloy additions, oxides, or even the surface of the mold wall. Thus, in the usual casting process, nucleation is heterogeneous. In this, we'll take first homogeneous nucleation. When a pure metal cools down in the liquid state, it will transform to the solid state at some temperature. From thermodynamics point of view, there is only one temperature at which a pure solid metal can coexist with pure liquid metal. This is a simple sketch showing the variation of free energy of pure liquid and pure solid as a function of time. That is, here Tm is nothing but the equilibrium melting temperature. In this graph, here Tm at this temperature, that is corresponding to the equilibrium melting temperature Tm, the free energies of liquid as well as solid are equal. At temperature lower than this Tm, the solid has a lower free energy and will be a stable state as shown in figure. And then the Tm is also the temperature of melting of the solid on heating. A metal will tend to solidify when its temperature is below the melting point, because there is a decrease in free energy associated with the solid to liquid transformation. The largest degree of undercooling, the larger is the driving force to transform from liquid to solid. When the contact angle is small, the nucleation will occur with a small amount of undercooling. If the contact angle is large, a greater amount of undercooling will be necessary. Most commercial metals contain a sufficient number and variety of insoluble impurities for nucleation to occur at undercooling of around 0.5 to 5.5 degree centigrade. If the number of nuclei is insufficient for a given purpose, nucleating agent may be added to the melt. That is for about homogeneous nucleation. Next we'll go for heterogeneous nucleation. Here if the nucleation is heterogeneous and occurs on solid surfaces in the liquid, foreign substances, either the container or insoluble impurities, provide such surfaces. For a metal to solidify on a foreign substance, it is essential that the surface of the substrate should be wetted. Here this shows the simple sketch about this solid versus liquid metal. This is nothing but theta is the contact angle between solid metal and substrate. The angle of contact theta between the substrate and the solid metal being deposited is important, as shown in sketch. When theta is small, the interface energy between the solid and substrate is low. Under these conditions, the atoms in the liquid readily form a solid metal nucleus on the surface of the substrate. If theta is 180 degree, the solid interfacial energy is high and nucleation is in effect homogeneous. The effectiveness of any particle as a nucleation catalyst is a function of the contact angle, which is determined by factors such as a lattice spacing of the two structures, that is substrate and solid metal, and the chemical nature of the substrate surface. Next we'll go for solidification variables. Here types of nucleation. Types is over. Next solidification variables. The solidification process by which a liquid metal freezes in a mold plays a crucial role, because different solidification conditions give rise to different microstructures, and hence the properties of the cast alloy. The variables affecting the solidification of the casting are as follows. The type or composition of the casting alloy, thermal properties of both the alloy and the molding material and cooling rate, mold thickness and shape, chills, gating and other casting design factors. Finally, pouring temperature of the molten metal. We'll discuss one by one. First one will take type or composition of casting alloy. An alloy consists of a base metal to which other elements are added to obtain favorable properties. When an element is added to the base metal, it significantly alters the solidification process. This is because an alloy freezes over a range of temperatures. That is, pure metals freeze, that is solidification at a constant temperatures. Thus, proper controlling of Alloying elements promotes constitutional supercooling, and further the additional use of inoculating agents promotes heterogeneous nucleation, resulting in fine grained structure in the cast metal. Here, inoculation is nothing but the introduction of another metal into the melt in order to influence the solidification process uh, in the specific way. Next we'll take thermal second one, thermal properties of both the alloy and the molding material and cooling rate. In this, the heat released during solidification is very large, and as such it must be extracted quickly. The higher the melting point, the thermal conductivity of materials used in casting process, the larger is the latent heat, that is maybe energy released or absorbed of fusion. Cooling rate promotes directional solidification at a faster rate with finer grains, while low cooling rate exhibits larger grains. It is important to note that the grain size affects the strength and hardness of the casting. Also, a metallic molds produce higher cooling rate than a sand mold under the same operating conditions. That is about thermal properties of both the alloy and the molding material and cooling rate. Next one will go for mold thickness and shape. The thickness of mold influences the solidification time. In case of sand molds, heat removal rates are increased by a decrease in mold thickness below a certain critical thickness. However, for the same thickness, solidification is faster in metallic molds. Next is we'll go for chill gating and other casting designs. In this solidification takes place at a certain rate relative to the thickness of the casting. A casting should be designed to achieve controlled progressive directional solidification so that it becomes free from solidification related defects. Location of gates, risers, and then use of chills and other means for controlling the freezing process must be adapted suitably for complete solidification to takes place. And then finally, last one is nothing but pouring uh, temperature of molten metal. Here, pouring temperature of the molten metal must be higher than the solidification temperature of the metal. This will help the molten metal to flow into all the regions of the mold before solidifying and overcome the solidification related defects. However, the temperature of the metal, that is the temperature of the melt, must not be very high as it might saturate the gases resulting in the formation of oxides. Also, the molten metal at high temperature has the ability to penetrate into the surface of the mold material. Next is directional solidification and its need in casting. Uh, as the molten metal cools and solidifies in the mold, it shrinks or contracts in volume. Due to the varying sections of the cast pod The difference rate of heat loss to adjoining mold walls. Some portion of the molten metal tends to solidify more quickly, resulting in voids and cavities than other portions. These voids must be filled with the incoming liquid metal from the feeder head, maybe riser. Hence, the casting must be so designed with respect to the feeding system such that the part of the mold that is fastest from the feeder head must solidify first, then proceed through the casting towards the feeder head. The solidification which is made to occur in this particular direction is known as directional solidification. And then directional solidification can be described as the solidification of molten metal takes place in such a manner that liquid feed metal is always available for that portion of the metal that is just solidifying. So see, this is the riser portion, and then this B is nothing but a progressive solidification, and then here D is nothing but the solid metal, and then E is nothing but a liquid metal. Here this is solidification will start, and this is the liquid metal. After solidifying this entire portion, this riser section should be solidified, while shrinkage effects will be nullified, while riser section in liquid form, and then same metal is fed to the solidification while solidification takes place. And then it can also be described as solidification of molten metal taking place progressively from the thinnest part, which solidifies first, and towards the feeder head, that is riser, which solidifies last. Solidifies from this side, and then finally this solidifies this riser section. In directional solidification and progressive solidification is nothing but a parallel solidification, are the two types of solidification in casting, and hence not to be confused with each other, although these processes share some common traits. The difference lies is that in progress solidification, the cooling and solidification process begins in the walls of the casting and works its way inward. With the directional solidification, the process of solidification begins at the bottom of the casting and works its up to the top. It is about directional solidification. Next is the progressive solidification. Here, when pure metals are allowed to solidify in a mold, the portion of the molten metal next to the mold wall begins to solidify. This metal solidifies in the form of solid skin, and then the liquid metal tends to freeze onto it. The skin progresses towards the center of the mold from all mold walls. This is called progressive solidification. That is, progressive solidification is also called nothing but parallel solidification, because the solidification that starts at the walls of the casting and progress perpendicularly from that surface. That is, from start is as shown in sketch. That is, from this the contact surface walls first solidifications, then come inside, okay, on both sides. There is a parallel solidification. That is, progressive solidification or the cooling and solidifying process begins at the walls of the casting and works its way inward, as shown in this sketch. Next, we'll go for methods of controlling. Uh, it's also called methods or factors controlling directional solidification. In this, the various methods of directionally solidifying a molten metal, hence to obtain a sound casting is listed and discussed one by one. These are the main factors to be considered for controlling the directional solidification. Proper design and positioning of the gates and risers, use of insulating pads and sleeves for risers, use of chills in the mold, incorporating blind riser, and finally use of exothermic riser compounds. We will discuss one by one. First we will take proper design and positioning of the gates and risers. Here the shape of the riser must be such that it must lose minimum heat, uh, keeping the metal in the molten state. This can be met with a spherical shaped riser. However, its incorporation in the mold is somehow difficult. And then cylindrical shape riser is best suitable than a square. Next, cylindrical riser is commonly used and it must be at least 20 to 15 to 20% larger in diameter than the section it is required to feed. The riser height is usually 1.5 times greater than the diameter, and then to increase the volume to surface area ratio, the bottom of the cylindrical riser can be shaped as hemisphere, and then the riser must be positioned suitably so that solidification is directional from the casting extremities towards the riser. And then we'll go for use of insulating pads and sleeves for risers. Here the sides of the riser are insulated with sleeves made from suitable materials so that to achieve lower solidification rate in the riser. This enhances better feeding of the casting. And then sleeves made from plaster of Paris are used for non-ferrous castings, and then fireclay sawdust sleeves are used for ferrous castings. Cellulose materials risers are also used in this use of insulating pads for sleeves for risers. And then insulating pads can also be employed in various parts of the mold to decrease the cooling rate in thin sections so as to promote directional solidification. And then use of chills in the mold. A chill is a metallic object of suitable shape inserted in the sand mold to improve solidification, thereby promoting directional solidification. A chill will produce local chilling and equalize the rate of solidification. Here equalize the rate of solidification throughout the casting. A chill may be classified into internal or external chills. This figure shows internal chill, and then This is the external chills, and then depending on its location in the mold, and then chills placed inside the mold cavities are called internal chills. The figure shows the internal chills. When the casting is filled with the molten metal, the chill will melt and become a part of the casting. Thus, internal chills are made from the same material as the cast part. On the other hand, external chills uh, having high thermal conductivity are placed on the edge of the mold cavity, thereby forming a part of the wall of the mold cavity. Here, external chills are used to increase the feeding distance of a riser, or it may be reduce the number of risers as shown in sketch. And then incorporating the use of blind risers. Here a conventional riser is open to atmosphere, but in figure shows the blind risers is not open to atmosphere, is completely enclosed in the sand mold. As a result, the molten metal, while pouring the molten metal is the sprue or pouring cup basin. Here molten metal will enter and then enter into the uh, before enter the mold cavity will enter this is the riser section. Okay, here is not open to atmosphere, and then as a result the molten metal in the blind riser cools slowly and stay liquid longer, thereby promote directional solidification. And whatever the molten metal from this riser section is uh, slow cooling, okay, and then stay liquid in longer, and then thereby promoting directional solidification. When solidification takes place, same metal will fade back to the mold cavity. This is about incorporating blind riser. And then finally, uh, use of exothermic riser components. Here exothermic riser compounds are loose materials, essentially a mixture of metal oxide. It may be iron, manganese, cobalt, nickel, or copper, etc. And aluminum sprinkled on the top of riser is in place of insulating powder. The main function is to prevent heat loss from the top of riser and also add some heat to the molten metal in the riser, thereby allowing the metal to stay hotter, necessary for achieving the directional solidification. These are the figure shows the use of some external riser compounds, insulating compound and exothermic mixture. Here riser one no cover. Thank you for patience listening. Finally, thank you.